Chloe. I live in a pretty small town with my husband, Keegan. We're pretty happy with our lives, but I've always wanted a child. I found out a few years ago that I wasn't able to have children, so we thought about adopting one soon. But the process was so long and tedious that we hadn't even started it yet. But that was all about to change one day. I had a long day at work, and all I really wanted was to go home and rest. It looked like it might rain, but I didn't pay any attention to it. I drove back to my apartment and was about to go inside when I noticed something by my steps. It looked like a bundle of clothes, so I approached it to try and throw it out. But when I touched it, it moved. I let out a shout and jumped back. There must have been a raccoon or something in there. But suddenly, it sat up, and I can see it wasn't an animal at all. It was a little girl with a blanket over top of her. She sat up and stared at me. She wasn't old enough to talk yet, but it couldn't hurt to ask. Hi there, what's your name? What are you doing out here all by yourself? As I thought, she didn't answer. I could hear thunder in the distance, and I knew the storm would be here any minute, so I made a quick decision and invited her into my home. Keegan was already inside, and when he saw the girl I had with me, he had a lot of questions.
Who is this?
I don't know. I found her outside, and look at her. She's filthy and needs a place to stay.
But what about her parents?
I'll ask around and find them. You keep her safe here until then. Is that okay? The girl seemed happy enough to be off the street, so I washed her face off with a towel, combed her hair a little, and took a few pictures of her with my phone. Keegan gave her a small snack, and while the two of them happily ate, I set off to try and find who this girl belonged to. Keegan agreed to notify the police while I started to ask our neighbors. One by one, I knocked on their doors as the rain began to fall. A few didn't answer their doors or weren't home, but a couple did. They took one look at my picture of the girl and told me they'd never seen her before. As it started to rain, I was giving up hope. Nobody I talked to seemed to know anything about this girl, not even so much as her name. So I went back home to Keegan and the child. He approached me with the results of the police.
I talked to the officers, and they said the best thing to do for now is to keep her around here in case her parents come looking for her. They'll send someone to our house whenever they can try to find the girl's parents.
It was dark out, and after work and now this giant search, I was exhausted. I made up a bed on our couch for the girl while Keegan put her laundry into the wash. Luckily, some of my older clothes fit her, even if they were really big on the tiny girl. But they would do until she got hers back. I had to admit, I did sort of enjoy caring for the girl like this. It made me feel like a mom already. She went to sleep immediately, covered in warm blankets. Keegan and I watched her for a little while, and I found myself hoping that when we got our child, they would be like this girl. The next morning, I began to make some posters, and the girl helped me. Keegan tried to ask around again, but had just as much luck as I had yesterday. As we were drawing, I noticed that the girl had on a very pretty watch. Then an idea hit me. It wasn't just a pretty watch, it was also a custom-made one. And there was only one spot in this area that made them like that. So I left the girl with Keegan to hang up the found child posters around our neighborhood, and I headed out to go to the shop. When I found the owner, I showed him the picture of the girl with the watch being clearly shown on her wrist. Hello? Do you know anything about this watch here and who ordered it?
Let me see. I think I have it in our records here.
He pulled out a large book from behind the counter and flipped to the page of customers who ordered the type of watch I showed him.
Here we go. This is the one that matches the picture. I'll give you an address for it.
I thanked the shopkeeper and headed out to the address he gave me. It was a house nearby to ours, but not one we'd asked already. So I took a deep breath and knocked. After a few seconds, a large man answered the door.
Yeah, what do you want?
Excuse me, but do you have any information about this girl here? I think she might be lost, and we're trying to find her parents.
Nope, I haven't seen them. But I do know that the girl lives around here. If you give me your address, I'll come by if I hear anything about her.
I gave him my address and knocked on a few more doors on my way back, just in case one of them was the parents. Still no luck. But I got home where Keegan and the girl were waiting for me. I told him about the watch and the man who might know where her parents were. With no other options left, we waited for information at home. But just because we were waiting didn't mean we couldn't have some fun. We played board games with the girl and played a little pretend as well before finally tucking her in for the night. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of knocking on our door. Keegan and I quickly rushed downstairs, hoping it was someone with information about the girl. But when we got downstairs, the living room was a mess. Cushions were thrown everywhere, pictures were knocked over, and, more importantly, the girl was nowhere to be seen. We ran to the front door and opened it to find a police officer there. "Officer! Thank goodness you're here! Someone broke into our house!" He stopped me and said he already knew and caught the person behind it. Sure enough, in handcuffs in the back of the police car was the man I talked to about the watch. The officer explained to me that he was on patrol when he noticed the man dragging the girl along behind him. She was fighting against him, so he stopped, and when he saw that he had come from our house and broken into it, he placed him under arrest. Turns out, the man had adopted the girl not too long ago, but he was mentally unwell and scared the girl. That's when we found her. The police took the man to get the mental help he needed, but that left us with the girl. It wasn't a problem though, since Keegan and I had already decided on a solution earlier. If nobody came to claim her, we already fell in love with her and enjoyed spending time with her, so we'd adopt the girl ourselves. It's been a few years since then, and we got all the paperwork done in no time. We named her Alice, and she legally became our daughter, whom we love very much. We haven't heard from her original adopted father, but we hope he got the help he needed. And that's the crazy story of how we adopted our first daughter. Thanks for watching! Like, share, and subscribe!